AOC is still pushing for a $15 minimum wage, and not surprisingly, the arguments she's making for it have all the intelligence of a chimpanzee throwing crap in a zoo. Because as usual, pandering to the lowest common denominator for retweets and votes is a lot more important to leftists than actually solving problems and bettering the lives of poor people. After all, without poor people, where would all their victims go? You want to know how to make more than $7.25 an hour and dig yourself out of the crap hole the left wants to keep you stuck in forever? It is more than possible. You can absolutely do it. But it's not going to come through government mandates, no matter how many of them they pass or how nice they might sound on Twitter. You're going to have to do it yourself. And here's why. Would someone please kick this record player because it's stuck again? AOC still wants the government to mandate companies pay their employees a minimum $15 an hour wage, saying everyone deserves to at least make enough to live on. Because apparently we've traded coherent logical arguments based on facts for just saying words on social media that sound nice but don't actually mean anything. Here's her tweet, and I'm going to lose brain cells just reading it out loud, but here goes anyway. It is utterly embarrassing that pay people enough to live is a stance that's even up for debate. Override the parliamentarian and raise the wage. McD's workers in Denmark are paid $22 an hour plus 6 weeks paid vacation. $15 an hour is a deep compromise, a big one, considering the phase-in. And this pile of virtual word vomit got 215,000 likes because, as usual, millions of people aren't actually going to think through the ramifications of what she's saying. This is a country that once actually built the world, and now we're just content to take whatever scraps the government will toss us because the woman who makes $174,000 a year to whine on Twitter says she used to sling beer, so she's just like you. Let's break down this nonsense. We'll start here. First off, AOC conveniently misses the fact that Denmark doesn't actually have a federal minimum wage law, which you'd think is a factoid she'd know before opening her pie hole, but nah. Maybe if someone wrote it on the bottom of a martini shaker, I don't know. But yeah, no minimum wage law in Denmark. They do have higher salaries though sometimes, but not because they love their fry cooks. It's because most of that money goes straight back to the government. See, while Denmark doesn't have a minimum wage, they do have the highest tax rates in the world. The average Dane pays a tax rate of around 45%, so that $22 an hour just got cut to about 12. And yeah, you get free health care. You're also going to wait an average of 3 months to see a doctor and nearly 2 months to go to the hospital. So turns out this oversimplified, intentionally obtuse argument is not the slam dunk AOC makes it out to be in her little tweet. Because she knows most of her followers are not going to take the time to actually think this through. Secondly, and I am not sure why she can't get this very simple concept through her thick skull because it is not that hard. Minimum wage jobs are not meant to be full-time living wage careers. If you are a part-time fry cook at Burger King, you should be a 16-year-old kid working for gas money while you finish up high school, not a dad with 3 kids who's paying on a mortgage and 2 cars. That's not the job for you. Because as shocking as this might be, salaries are not based on what your bills are. The fact that you've got cable and your car just broke down doesn't make bagging groceries suddenly more valuable. Wages are based on how much that particular work is worth. Flipping dollar burgers? Not worth that much. It doesn't mean you're lazy or that you don't work hard. It just means that's a simple job with low pay, and that is okay because it was never supposed to be a forever job. It's an entry-level one, not the kind you're supposed to be able to buy a home on. When I got my first job at 16, I made $6.75 an hour slicing bagels at Panera. Never once did I complain that I didn't make enough or that I couldn't live on it because I was 16. I didn't need enough to live on. I needed enough money to keep my car running and to buy Starbucks at the mall. That's all that job was ever intended for, and that's why I don't work there now as a 32-year-old mom of 2 kids. But let's say this little bout of idiocy gets rammed through and little Miss Bartender gets her $15 an hour minimum wage, which she claims would at least be enough to live on. Let's do the math here. If you work a full-time 40-hour-a-week job at $15 an hour, assuming you don't get replaced by a kiosk or cut back to part-time, which, let's face it, is probably more likely, congratulations, after federal taxes, you'll take home about $27,000 a year. Add in state tax, personal property tax, sales tax, the bazillion other taxes and fees the government's going to saddle you with, and you're not exactly doing backstrokes in a pool full of Benjamins, are you? Many of the people struggling under minimum wage, the ones the AOCs of the world are now pandering to, they live in urban areas. Now please, someone raise your hand if you live in New York City or Atlanta or DC or San Francisco and can afford to live off of $27,000 a year or less. Anybody? Even without kids, that's just shy of impossible. So how is $15 an hour a living wage? It's not. So why not 20? Why not 25? Why not 40? It'll never be enough, not only because the cost of living varies from the mountains of rural West Virginia to the suburbs of LA, but because as the minimum wage rises, so does the cost of labor and the cost of goods. And the value of the dollar goes down and the whole cycle starts back over again. That $3 burger becomes an $8 burger, and now you're ordering it from a machine because in many places that was cheaper than keeping Billy behind the register and paying him $15 an hour and a month's worth of vacation just to ask if you'd like fries with that. Not only is a $15 an hour minimum wage ridiculous for many types of jobs, it's not actually based on what anybody needs. It doesn't lift many people out of poverty. It tickles the ears because 15 is higher than 7. But it doesn't actually solve the problem of helping poor people get on their feet and become self-sufficient. But it does cost many of them their jobs. A recent poll found that 30% of small businesses said they'd have to lay off workers if they were forced to pay them $15 an hour. A CBO report estimates that a $15 minimum wage hike would pull about 900,000 people out of poverty, but would cost 1.4 million their jobs in the process. So that helps how exactly? And how long before those 900,000 are right back in the mud pit because the cost of goods goes up and they're back to not being able to afford anything again? The only way to get out of this cycle is to get a better job. And I know that sounds a lot less appealing than the government simply promising to hand you more money for the same work by forcing your company to cough it up. Because that doesn't actually require anything from you, except maybe your job when your employer decides it's not worth it. So the question is, would you rather put in the work and actually solve the problem yourself and end up with a better life? Or simply buy into a government solution that sounds nice when it's scrawled on a piece of poster board at a protest, but ultimately leaves you no better off than you were before and might actually cost you what little you've already got? McDonald's might pay $7.25 an hour for you to put the M&Ms in a McFlurry. I get it. I sliced a lot of Cinnamon Crunch bagels for even less than that. McDonald's also has a scholarship program. Employers like Walmart have corporate training programs and will even help you earn your MBA. The CEO of Walmart started by unloading trucks in a warehouse in high school, and now he runs the entire company and has a net worth of $100 million. It's there if you want it, but you're going to have to go get it.
You want something, go get it. Period.
That's why it's called the pursuit of happiness. And that's your Reality Check America. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble pages, like us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay sane out there.